Jiho Kim stood in the main conference room of Kepler Station, watching the alien delegation through the large viewing window. The Vexians looked like walking lizards, but bigger and more dangerous. Their scales caught the artificial light as they moved around their ship. Each one was twice the size of a human, with claws that could easily tear through metal. "They refuse to talk to anyone except you," said Mina Lee, the station's security chief. She crossed her arms and frowned. "I don't like it. We have trained diplomats here. Why do they want the science guy?" Kyo adjusted his glasses and studied the alien ship. He was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. He was not a diplomat. He had never done any major negotiations before. The whole situation felt strange. "Did they say why they want me?" he asked. "No clear reason. The translator just keeps saying something about your eyes. Doesn't make much sense." Through the window, Jiho could see the Vrexian leader. Ambassador Talon was huge, even by Vrexian standards. His dark green scales looked like armor, and his yellow eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. When Talon looked toward the station, Jiho felt like the alien was staring right at him through the thick glass. The first meeting happened 2 hours later. Jiho sat across from Talon in the smaller diplomatic room. 3 other human officials sat nearby, including the station commander. The Vrexian delegation filled their side of the table. The room felt tense. "We greet the humans of Kepler Station," Talon said through his translator device. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "We come seeking trade agreements and peaceful relations." Commander Hayes, the station leader, leaned forward. "We welcome the Vrexian people. Our diplomatic team is ready to begin discussions about trade routes and—" Talon raised one clawed hand. "We will speak only with the one called Jiho Kim." The commander looked confused. "Dr. Kim is our science officer, not our lead negotiator. Perhaps it's only him," Talon said firmly, his yellow eyes focused on Jiho. "He has the eyes of one who understands." Jiho felt uncomfortable under that stare. "Understands what exactly?" Talon tilted his large head. "You've stood at the top of the food chain. Your eyes show this truth. The others—" He glanced at the human officials. "They are not hunters." The room went quiet. Nobody knew what to say. The other Vrexians nodded slowly, as if Talon's words made perfect sense to them. Commander Hayes tried again. "I assure you, Dr. Kim is qualified, but our diplomatic protocols require—" "Your protocols mean nothing," Talon interrupted. "We know what we see. This one has the mark of a predator species. We will deal with him or we will leave." Jiho looked around the table. The human officials seemed lost. They had prepared for months for this first contact. They had studied Vrexian culture and language. They had practiced every possible negotiation scenario. But nobody had prepared for this. "Could you give us a moment to discuss this?" Jiho asked. "Yes, but know this. Human Jiho Kim, your people, climbed to the top of your world's food chain, not through size or strength, but through intelligence and patience. We see this in your eyes. It is why we will speak with you." The Vrexians left the room. The humans sat in stunned silence for several minutes. "What the hell was that about?" Commander Hayes asked. Jiho shook his head. "I have no idea. I study alien biology, not psychology. But something about us, about me specifically, triggered a response in them. It's almost like they recognize something," said Dr. Patel, the station's head diplomat. "But what could a human have in common with a 7-foot-tall lizard predator?" Mina Lee pulled up her datapad. "I'm looking at the Vrexian homeworld data. Vrex is a desert planet with extreme temperature changes. The Vrexians evolved as the dominant predators. They hunt in packs and use complex strategies to take down prey much larger than themselves. So they're pack hunters," Jiho said. "That's interesting, but lots of species hunt in groups. It's not like this." Mina continued reading. According to our surveys, they don't just hunt for food, okay? They actively manage their planet's ecosystem. They controlled which species lived where and in what numbers. They basically ran their entire world like one big hunting ground. Something clicked in Jiho's mind. They didn't just become apex predators. They maintained that position through planning and control, just like humans did on Earth, Dr. Patel said slowly. We didn't just survive, we took over. The door opened and Talon returned alone. He moved quietly for such a large creature. He sat down across from Jiho and studied his face carefully. Your friends begin to understand, Talon said. But do you? I think so, Jiho replied. You see something in humans that reminds you of your own species. Not just reminds. We see kinship. Your people and mine both earned our positions at the top of our worlds. We were not born the strongest or fastest. We became apex predators through intelligence, planning, and the will to do what others could not. Talon leaned forward. Tell me, Jiho Kim, what happened to the great beasts of your world, the ones your ancestors faced when they first learned to hunt? Okay. Jiho thought about Earth's history. Most of them went extinct. The mammoths, cave bears, giant cats. Early humans hunted them or outcompeted them for resources. And how did small, weak humans defeat creatures so much larger and stronger? Persistence, hunting tools, working together. We tracked animals for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. We set traps, used fire to drive them where we wanted them to go. Talon's eyes seemed to glow brighter. Yes, just as my ancestors did on Vrex. Not through brute force, but through patience and intelligence. We see this heritage in your eyes, human. The calm focus of a species that knows how to wait, how to plan, how to strike at the right moment. The room felt different now. The tension was still there, but it had changed. It was no longer the nervousness of first contact. It was the careful assessment between two predators meeting for the first time. Your species interests us, Talon continued. Most others we have met were prey animals that became intelligent. They think like prey, always afraid, always hiding, always running. But humans think like hunters. This is why we will work with you. Jiho realized this moment would change everything. Not just for this negotiation, but for how humans would interact with alien species going forward. Talon was right. If other species could somehow recognize humanity's predatory heritage, it would affect every future first contact. I accept the responsibility, Jiho said, but I'll need to learn your customs and protocols. Talon showed what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. We will teach you. One apex predator teaching another. This will be interesting. As the Vrexian ambassador left, Jiho remained in his chair, staring out at the stars. He had always known humans were unique, but he had never thought about it this way. Somewhere in human DNA and behavior, other species could read the story of humanity's rise to dominance on Earth. The question was, what other alien species would recognize that same predatory heritage in human eyes? 3 weeks after the Vrexian negotiations ended successfully, Jiho Kim sat in his office reading reports that made no sense. He had asked for records of every first contact between humans and alien species over the past 50 years. What he found troubled him. The pattern was clear once he knew what to look for. Apex predator species consistently showed immediate respect or acceptance of humans. Prey species often displayed fear or unease during first meetings. It was not random. It was not coincidence. You look like someone who hasn't slept in days, said Hyan Park as he entered the office. The anthropologist carried 2 cups of coffee and set one on Jiho's desk. Mina told me you've been obsessing over alien contact reports. Look at this, Jiho said, pointing to his screen. The Kithrin defense. First contact was supposed to take months of careful approach. Instead, they immediately accepted human researchers into their hunting groups. No other species has ever been allowed to do that. Haiyan sat down and pulled up his own datapad. The Shadowmere Night Stalkers are similar, ethereal apex predators who attack any alien visitors, except humans. They just ignore us completely, like we're not a threat. And the Ironhold Sky Reapers, Jiho added. They've never let any off-world species near their nests, but they allow human researchers to set up observation posts right next to their breeding grounds. The door opened and Sumicho walked in. The evolutionary biologist looked excited. I got approval for the research mission. The council wants us to investigate this phenomenon officially. We have a ship and funding for a 3-month study. Jiho stood up. Where are we going? All 3 worlds I mentioned. Kythera first, then Shadowmere, then Ironhold. Will work directly with the apex predators and document their behavior around humans versus other species. 2 days later, they were aboard the research vessel Horizon, heading toward the ocean world of Kythera. The ship was small, but well equipped for scientific missions. Besides the 3 researchers, they had a crew of 6 and enough supplies too. Last several months, Kayata appeared on the main screen as they approached. The planet was almost entirely covered by deep blue oceans. Small islands dotted the surface like tiny green jewels. According to the files, the Deepfins controlled the planet's marine ecosystem like underwater kings. The Deepfins are fascinating, Sumi explained as they prepared to land. They are similar to Earth sharks, but much more intelligent. They use tools, have complex social structures, and can communicate across vast distances using low-frequency sounds. The research station on Kythera was built on a floating platform. Dr. Chen, the human researcher in charge, met them at the landing pad. He looked tired, but excited. It's perfect timing, Dr. Chen said. The Deepfins are about to begin their seasonal hunt. They want human observers to join them. They've never made this offer to any other species. That afternoon, Jiho found himself in a submersible vehicle, descending into the dark waters of Kythera. Through the transparent walls, he could see massive shapes moving in the depths. The Deepfins were enormous, some over 20 feet long, with intelligence that showed in their calculated movements. The lead Deepfin approached their submersible. It was scarred from many battles, clearly the alpha of the group. When it looked through the transparent wall at Jiho, something passed between them. Recognition, understanding. They're communicating, Dr. Chen said, checking his instruments. Low-frequency signals. Thing wow. Welcoming us to the hunt. For the next hour, Jiho watched the most coordinated hunt he had ever seen. The Deepfins moved like a military unit, each knowing their role perfectly. They surrounded a school of large prey fish and drove them toward a underwater canyon. Some Deepfins blocked escape routes while others herded the prey into position. The final strike was swift and efficient. This isn't just hunting, Haiyan whispered. This is warfare. After the hunt, the Alpha Deepfin approached their submersible again. This time, it performed a series of movements that Dr. Chen said was their version of a respectful greeting between equals. It sees us as fellow hunters. Jiho realized, not as prey or competition, but as kindred predators. Their visit to Shadowmere was equally revealing. The forest world was dark and dangerous, filled with massive trees that blocked most sunlight. The Night Stalkers were 6-legged feline predators that moved through the trees like deadly shadows. The local research team, led by Dr. Kim, showed them footage of Night Stalker behavior around different species. Watch this, Dr. Kim said, playing a video. This is a Centaurian research team trying to set up equipment. The Night Stalkers destroyed their camp within hours and forced them to leave the planet. The video showed large, cat-like creatures systematically dismantling alien equipment while the Centaurians fled in panic. Now, watch this, Dr. Kim continued, switching to another video. This is our human team doing the same thing in the same location. In the second video, human researchers set up their equipment while night stalkers watched from the trees. The predators made no move to attack or interfere. They simply observed, then disappeared back into the forest. They're evaluating us, Sumi said, testing whether we're prey or predator. During their stay on Shadowmere, Jiho had several encounters with night stalkers. Each time, the big cats approached carefully, studied him with intelligent eyes, then withdrew without aggression. It was like being inspected by a fellow professional. The most dramatic encounter happened on Ironhold, the mountain world. Sky Reapers were massive flying predators with wingspans of over 30 feet. They built their nests on the highest peaks and ruled the skies. Absolutely. No flying vehicle from any other species has ever been allowed in Sky Rapper territory, explained Dr. Yang, the research station commander. They attack anything that enters their airspace, except human aircraft. They escort us like we're honored guests. Jiho stood on the observation platform, watching a family of Sky Reapers soar above the mountains. The adult male noticed him and descended, landing on a nearby peak. The creature was magnificent, with golden feathers and predatory eyes. That seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The Sky Rapper studied Jiho for several minutes. Then it spread its wings wide and gave a cry that echoed across the mountains. Other Sky Reapers answered from distant peaks. That's their greeting call, Dr. Yang said in amazement. They're announcing your presence to the entire territory, like introducing a respected visitor. As their investigation continued, a clear picture emerged. Each apex predator species they encountered recognized something fundamental in humans. It was not just curiosity or friendliness. It was recognition between fellow predators who had earned their position at the top of their respective food chains. We need to understand what they're seeing, Jiho said during their final team meeting aboard the Horizon. What is it about humans that these species recognize? It's not physical, Hyen said. We don't look like any of them. It must be behavioral or psychological or evolutionary, Sumi added. Something in our development as a species that mirrors their own path to dominance. The three researchers sat in silence, watching the stars through the ship's viewing port. They had documented the phenomenon, but they had not explained it. That would require digging deeper into both human and alien evolutionary history, I think. Jiho said slowly, we need to go back to Earth. We need to understand what made humans into apex predators before we can understand why other apex predators recognize us. Sumi nodded. The answer isn't out here in space. It's buried in our own past. Their investigation had raised more questions than it answered. But now they knew they were on the right track. Somewhere in humanity's evolutionary journey lay the key to understanding why apex predators from every world seemed to see something kindred in human eyes. The mystery was deeper than they had imagined. And the solution would change how humans saw themselves and their place in the galaxy. The dig site in Kenya was hot and dusty. Jiho Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he watched the archaeology team work under the African sun. They had been here for 2 weeks, following a lead that might explain why alien apex predators recognized something familiar in human eyes. Found something called Dao and Jung from the excavation pit. The archaeologists held up a piece of carved bone, ancient and weathered. This is definitely human-made, but it's older than we expected. Jiho climbed down into the pit to get a better look. The bone had markings on it, crude but deliberate, lines and dots that seemed to form patterns. What do you think it represents? He asked. Tao In pointed to the markings. Migration patterns, maybe, or hunting routes. Early humans were always moving, always tracking something. But look at this part. He indicated a section with more complex markings. These aren't just random scratches. This is planning, strategy. Dr. Aizo Han looked up from her genetic analysis equipment nearby. The geneticist had been running DNA tests on ancient human remains found at the site. The bone carvings match what I'm seeing in the genetic data. These early humans weren't just survivors, they were systematic. Systematic how? Jiho asked. Come look at this, Hasil said, motioning them over to her portable lab setup. She pulled up data on her screen. I've been comparing modern human DNA with samples from different time periods. The changes are remarkable. The screen showed genetic markers highlighted in different colors. Seal pointed to specific sections. K's markers here relate to endurance. Early humans could run for hours without stopping. These markers, she moved to another section, relate to strategic thinking and memory. The ability to track complex patterns over long periods. Persistence hunting, Jiho said. I've read about it. Early humans would chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. More than that, Darwin interrupted. He had been studying cave paintings found near their dig site. Look at these images. The cave walls showed crude but clear pictures of humans hunting massive animals. Mammoths, giant bears, saber-toothed cats. But the hunting scenes were not simple chases. K showed coordination, planning, trap setting. Every technique here is strategic, Darwin explained. Driving animals toward cliffs, setting fires to control their movement, using tools to wound them from a distance, then tracking them for days until they weakened. ICO nodded. The genetic evidence supports this. Early humans developed what I call apex adaptation. Not physical changes to make them stronger or faster, but mental changes to make them better hunters. But humans weren't the biggest or strongest predators, Jiho said. How did they become dominant? A change in the rules, Darwin replied. Every other apex predator on Earth used strength, speed, or size. Humans used intelligence and persistence. They didn't just hunt animals, okay? They hunted the ecosystem itself. Over the following days, the picture became clearer. The archaeological evidence showed that wherever early humans migrated, the local megafauna disappeared within a few thousand years, not through direct confrontation, but through systematic pressure. Good as migration map, Darwin said during their evening briefing. He projected a world map showing human expansion over thousands of years. Humans reached Australia about 50,000 years ago. Within 5,000 years, most of the giant animals there were extinct. Same pattern in the Americas, ECO added. Humans arrived about 15,000 years ago. Mammoths, giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, all gone within a few thousand years. But they didn't just hunt these animals to extinction, Jiho realized. They managed the entire environment. Exactly, Darwin said. Early humans used controlled burns to shape forests, tated rivers to create better hunting grounds. They even domesticated other predators like wolves to help them hunt. ICO pulled up more genetic data. The DNA shows something fascinating. Modern humans still carry these apex adaptation markers. The ability to track complex patterns, make long-term plans, coordinate group activities. We're all carrying the genetic blueprint of persistence hunters. That night, Jiho couldn't sleep. He walked outside the camp and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien apex predators had looked into human eyes and seen something familiar. Now he was beginning to understand what they had recognized. The next morning brought their most important discovery. Darwin's team found a buried site that had been preserved by volcanic ash. It contained tools, bones, and cave paintings that told a complete story. This site is about 30,000 years old, Darwin explained as they examined the findings. But look at the sophistication of the tools. The stone implements were not crude. They showed careful planning and design. Spear points designed for specific types of prey. Cutting tools made for processing different materials. Trap components that could be assembled in various ways. These humans weren't just making tools as they needed them, Darwin continued. They were manufacturing toolkits for planned operations. The cave paintings at the site were even more revealing. They showed not just individual hunts, but hunting campaigns that lasted 4 seasons. Groups of humans working together to systematically clear regions of dangerous predators. This changes everything we thought about early human behavior, Isil said. They weren't struggling to survive. They were actively conquering their environment. The final piece came when they found what Darwin called the planning chamber. A section of cave where the walls were covered with maps, crude but accurate representations of the local geography, marked with symbols indicating animal territories, seasonal movements, and resource locations. They were managing the entire region like a hunting preserve, Jiho said in amazement. This is what the alien apex predators recognize. Not just that humans are predators, but that we're thinking predators. Every other apex species we've encountered became dominant through evolution, Isil explained. Bigger claws, sharper teeth, stronger muscles. But humans became apex predators through intelligence and planning. In cooperation, Darwin added, look at these group hunting scenes. Early humans worked together in ways that other predators couldn't match. They combined individual intelligence into group strategy. As they prepared to leave the dig site, Jiho felt like he finally understood the mystery. Alien apex predators recognized something in human eyes, because humans carried the genetic memory of their species' rise to dominance, not through brute force, but through patience, intelligence, and systematic planning. We need to test this theory, he said to his colleagues. If I'm right, every human should trigger this recognition in apex predator species. It's not just me or a few individuals. It's something built into our entire species. How do we test it? Isil asked. We go back to space, Jiho replied. But this time, we bring proof of what we've discovered. We show these alien predators that they're right to recognize us as kindred spirits. We are apex predators, just a different kind than they've ever encountered before. The sun was setting over the African landscape where humanity first learned to hunt. In a few days, they would return to the stars, carrying with them the ancient truth about human nature. They were not just another intelligent species that had learned to use tools. They were the species that became apex predators through thinking, planning, and never giving up. And somewhere in the depths of space, other apex predators had been waiting to meet creatures like themselves. The recognition in alien eyes was not coincidence. Acknowledgement between fellow hunters would earn their place at the top of their respective worlds through intelligence rather than instinct alone. The emergency message reached Jiho Kim while he was still reviewing the findings from Kenya. The communication came from Drakmore, a frontier colony world on the edge of human space. The message was urgent and troubling. We need help, immediately, said Seognam, the colony administrator, his face strained on the video screen. The situation with the Thornbacks is getting worse. 3 more settlers were injured yesterday. If we don't solve this soon, we'll have to abandon the colony. Jiho studied the reports from Drakmore during the journey to the Outer Rim. The planet was beautiful, but dangerous. Thick forests covered most of the landmass, broken by rivers and mountain ranges. The human colony occupied a valley that provided good farmland and access to mineral deposits. The problem was the Thornbacks. They were the apex predators of Drakmore, massive creatures that stood 12 feet tall and weighed over 2 tons. Their backs were covered with bone spikes, and their intelligence was obvious in their hunting tactics. Unlike the other apex predators Jiho had studied, the Thornbacks were not showing recognition toward humans. Instead, they were actively challenging human presence on their world. This is different, Hyen Park observed as they reviewed the data aboard their transport ship. The Vrexians, Deepfins, Night Stalkers, and Sky Reapers all accepted humans immediately. But the Thornbacks are treating us like competition. Maybe they don't see us as apex predators, Sumicho suggested. Maybe we need to prove ourselves to them. When they arrived at Drakmore, Jiho could see why the colonists were worried. The settlement was surrounded by a high fence topped with energy barriers. Guard towers watched the forest line constantly. This was not a peaceful colony. Tees was. A fortress HFY Nam met them at the landing pad. He was a practical man in his 40s, with the weathered look of someone who had spent years on frontier worlds. "Thank you for coming," he said. "The situation is getting desperate. The Thornbacks have been testing our defenses for months. They're not randomly attacking. They're studying us." "Studying us? How?" Jiho asked. "Watch this." HFY Nam led them to the security center. He pulled up video footage from the perimeter cameras. This happened 3 days ago. The video showed a massive Thornback approaching the colony fence. The creature moved carefully, testing different sections of the barrier. When the automated defenses activated, the Thornback retreated, but did not flee. It watched the defensive systems, learning how they worked. "They're gathering intelligence," Hyea said. Tia said, "This is reconnaissance." "It gets worse," HFY Nam continued. He showed them more footage. "Yesterday, 3 Thornbacks worked together to disable one of our sensor arrays. They used tools, rocks, and branches to damage the equipment from angles our weapons couldn't cover." Jiho felt a chill of recognition. They're not just challenging us. They're testing whether we're worthy opponents. Over the next few days, Jiho and his team studied the Thornbacks from the safety of the colony. The creatures were impressive. They moved through the forest with surprising stealth for their size. They used complex hunting strategies that required planning and coordination. Most importantly, they showed no fear of human technology. "Look at this behavior pattern." Yunabei, the colony's wildlife specialist, showed them her observations. "The Thornbacks aren't trying to drive us away. They're trying to understand our capabilities. It's like a job interview," Sumi said. "But instead of asking questions, they're creating challenges." The breakthrough came when Jiho realized what the Thornbacks were really doing. They were not testing human defenses, but were testing human intelligence and adaptability. Each challenge was designed to see how humans would respond to a new threat. "They want to know if we think like apex predators," he told the colony leadership during an emergency meeting. "Every other species we've encountered recognized us immediately. Lied, but the Thornbacks are making us prove it." "Prove it how?" asked HFY Nam. "By accepting their challenges and showing them we can think strategically." The first test came the next morning. The Thornbacks had blocked the main river that supplied the colony's water system. They had used fallen trees and rocks to create a dam upstream. It was clearly deliberate. The colony had backup water reserves. The message was clear. Instead of using heavy machinery to clear the blockage, Jiho suggested a different approach. A small team of humans would go upstream and remove the dam using only basic tools and teamwork. No advanced technology, no weapons. It's human intelligence and cooperation. "That's suicide," HFY Nam protested. "The Thornbacks will be watching." "I'm counting on it," Jiho replied. The team consisted of Jiho, Haiyan, Sumi, and 6 colonists. They approached the dam site carefully, knowing they were being observed. The Thornbacks were there, 3 massive creatures watching from the forest, edge, working together. The humans began dismantling the dam. They used ropes and leverage to move the larger rocks. They coordinated their efforts to redirect the flow of water gradually. It took 6 hours of careful work, but they succeeded in restoring the river flow. Throughout the entire operation, the Thornbacks watched but did not interfere. When the humans finished, the alien predators made a low, rumbling sound that might have been approval. Then they disappeared back into the forest. The second test came a week later. Thornbacks had driven a herd of dangerous animals called razorherns toward the colony. The beasts were not as intelligent as Thornbacks, but they were aggressive and territorial. Left unchecked, they would attack the colony within hours. Again, Jiho suggested meeting the challenge on Thornback terms. Instead of using heavy weapons, the colonists would drive the razorhorns away using persistence hunting techniques. They would work in teams to exhaust and redirect the animals, just as early humans had done on Earth. The operation took 2 days. Groups of colonists took turns harassing the razorhorn herd, never giving them time to rest or establish territory. They used noisemakers, fires, and coordinated movements to keep the animals confused and tired. Finally, the exhausted herd moved away from the colony area. Once again, Thornbacks observed the entire operation. This time, their approval was more obvious. They performed what looked like a ritual dance, moving in patterns that clearly indicated respect. The final test was the most challenging. The Thornbacks themselves approached the colony openly. 3 of the massive creatures walked directly to the main gate and waited. They were not attacking or threatening. They were presenting themselves for direct evaluation. Co Kanam wanted to activate all defenses, but Jiho insisted on a different approach. He would meet the Thornbacks alone outside the colony's protective barriers. No weapons, no backup, just human intelligence facing alien predators. This is insane, Co Kanam argued. Those things could kill you in seconds. They could have killed any of us at any time, Jiho replied. But they haven't. They're not here to fight. They're here to conclude the test. Jiho walked out to meet the Thornbacks with empty hands and steady nerves. The largest of the 3 creatures approached him slowly. It was enormous up close, with intelligent eyes that studied him carefully for several minutes. A human and alien predator regarded each other. Then the Thornback did something unexpected. It placed one massive clawed hand on the ground and stepped back. In response, Jiho placed his own hand on the same spot. The ritual continued with the other 2 Thornbacks. Each one acknowledged Jiho's presence and received acknowledgement in return. When it was over, the creatures withdrew to the forest edge, but did not leave entirely. Over the following weeks, the relationship between humans and Thornbacks evolved into something unprecedented. The alien predators began actively helping protect the colony from other dangerous species. They shared territory information and warned of environmental threats. Most importantly, they treated the human colonists as equals rather than invaders. We passed the test, Yuna observed during a briefing a month later. But it was more than just proving we're apex predators. We had to prove we could think like them. The other species recognized us immediately because they could see our predatory heritage, Jiho explained. But the Thornbacks made us demonstrate it. They wanted proof that humans earned their position through intelligence and cooperation. The successful resolution on Drakmor proved Jiho's theory. Humans could work with any apex predator species, but some required more convincing than others. The key was understanding that recognition between apex predators was based on respect for intelligence and strategic thinking, not just strength or aggression. As Jiho prepared to leave Drakmor, he realized their research had practical applications beyond simple curiosity. Understanding how apex predators recognized each other could revolutionize human expansion into space. Instead of fighting for territory, humans could establish themselves as fellow predators worthy of respect and cooperation. The test on Drakmor had been difficult, but it proved something important. Humans were not just another intelligent species trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. They were apex predators with a unique approach to dominance, and other apex predators would respect that once they understood what humans truly were. 6 months had passed since the event on Drakmor. Kim stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of Unity Station, watching representatives from dozens of worlds arrive for what would become known as the First Galactic Apex Summit. The station floated in neutral space between 3 major star systems, built specifically for this historic gathering. The hall was designed to accommodate species of different sizes and environments. Massive sections could hold the Sky Reapers from Ironhold, while aquatic chambers allowed the Deep Vents from Cathara to participate. Environmental controls maintained the different atmospheric requirements for forest dwellers, desert predators, and mountain hunters. "I never thought I would see something like this," said Mina Lee, who now served as Director of Interspecies Security. She watched as a group of Rexians discussed territory boundaries with representatives from the ice world, predators called Frostclaws. 6 months ago, these species barely acknowledged each other existed. Jiho nodded, still amazed by how quickly things had changed. The discovery that apex predators recognize each other across species lines had revolutionized galactic politics. For the first time in recorded history, predator species were working together instead of avoiding each other. The prey species are not happy about this development, Hyen Park observed. He had been appointed as the first director of evolutionary diplomacy, tasked with managing relationships between different types of species. "They think we're forming some kind of predator alliance against them." "That's exactly what they should think," said Ambassador Talan, approaching their group. The Vrexian leader had become a close ally since their first meeting. Prey species have dominated galactic politics for centuries because predator species stayed isolated. Now, we communicate and cooperate. The opening ceremony began with a ritual that had been suggested by the Thornbacks. Each species demonstrated their hunting prowess through traditional displays. Sky Reapers performed aerial maneuvers that showed their mastery of three-dimensional combat. The Deep Vents projected holographic representations of their coordinated underwater hunts. The Night Stalkers demonstrated their stealth capabilities by appearing and disappearing throughout the hall. When it came time for the human demonstration, Jiho had chosen something simple but powerful. A group of human colonists from various worlds performed a persistence hunt simulation, showing how early humans had exhausted and captured prey through coordination, planning, and endurance. "Remarkable," commented Cruven, the massive Thornback representative. "Claws, no natural weapons, yet they achieved dominance through pure intelligence and cooperation." The real work began in the smaller conference rooms over the following days. For the first time, apex predator species were sharing information about their worlds, their hunting territories, and their expansion plans. The conversations revealed patterns that surprised everyone. "Look at this distribution map," Sumi Cho explained to the assembled representatives. She had been analyzing the territorial claims of different predator species. Each apex predator species controls between 5 and 15 star systems, but none of your territories overlap. You've been unconsciously avoiding each other. "We had no framework for cooperation," explained Zara, the representative from the crystalline predators of the mineral world Chiron. "Our species assumed that apex predators from different worlds would be natural enemies, but that assumption was wrong," Jiho said. "Earth had multiple apex predator species that coexisted. Humans, lions, sharks, eagles, wolves. They occupied different ecological niches and rarely competed directly. The breakthrough came when the representatives realized that space was large, enough for all apex predator species to expand without conflict. More importantly, they could help each other deal with the real challenges of galactic expansion. Prey species have been controlling trade routes and resource distribution," Talon pointed out during a strategy session. "They use economic pressure to limit predator expansion. But if we coordinate our efforts, could establish our own trade networks," finished Unibae, who had been promoted to Director of Frontier Relations after her work on Drakmore. "Predator species could support each other's colonies instead of depending on prey species for supplies and assistance." The summit's most important outcome was the establishment of the Hunters Council, a permanent organization dedicated to apex predator cooperation. Unlike traditional galactic governments, TA's council operated on principles of mutual respect and territorial acknowledgement. Rather than democratic voting or hierarchical command structures, each species maintains complete autonomy within their territory. Jiho explained the new system to a group of journalists. But we share information about threats, opportunities, and resources. When one apex species faces a challenge, others can provide assistance. The prey species initially reacted with alarm to these developments. Several herbivorous civilizations filed protests with the Galactic Trade Commission, claiming that predator cooperation violated established diplomatic protocols. They're afraid we're planning to hunt them, Hyen said during a media interview. But that's not what this is about. Apex predators don't hunt intelligent species. We hunt challenges, territories, and opportunities for growth. To address these concerns, the Hunters Council established the protection protocols. Any intelligent species, regardless of their evolutionary background, could request protection from predator species if they faced genuine threats. In exchange, they would provide services and resources to support predator expansion into uninhabited systems. It's not predator versus prey, Jiho explained to the galactic media. It's different evolutionary strategies learning to work together. Predator species are explorers and pioneers. Prey species are builders and maintainers. Both are necessary for galactic civilization. The first major test of the new system came when the agricultural world of Verdania faced an invasion of aggressive plant parasites that threatened to destroy their ecosystem. The Verdanians were a peaceful, herbivorous species with no military capability. The Hunters Council responded immediately. Night Stalkers provided stealth reconnaissance to map the parasite infestation. Sky Reapers conducted aerial surveys to track the spread of contamination. Humans organized the overall strategy, while Thornbacks led ground operations to contain the parasites. The operation was successful. Then the Verdanians were grateful. More importantly, other prey species began to see predator cooperation as beneficial rather than threatening. We solved a problem that none of us could have handled alone, Cruven observed during the post-operation briefing. The Verdanians provided detailed biological data that helped us understand the parasites. We provided the aggressive tactics needed to eliminate them. Over the following months, similar cooperation missions established the Hunters Council as a stabilizing force in galactic politics. Predator species handled security threats, exploration of dangerous systems, and first contact with potentially hostile species. Prey species focused on trade development, infrastructure construction, and diplomatic mediation. We've created something unprecedented, Talon said during the first anniversary celebration of the Apex Summit. A galactic civilization where different evolutionary strategies complement each other instead of competing. Jiho stood at the observation deck of Unity Station, watching ships from dozens of worlds come and go. Human vessels worked alongside Vexian warships, Skyrapper, atmospheric craft, and deep-fin submersibles. The cooperation was natural now, based on mutual respect between species that understood each other's predatory heritage. The recognition was always there, he reflected, to Hyen and Sumi, who had joined him at the observation window. Apex predators from every world could see something familiar in human eyes, because we all shared the same fundamental experience. We all climbed to the top of our respective food chains through intelligence and determination. And now we're climbing to the top of the galaxy together, Sumi added. The transformation was remarkable. What had started as curiosity about alien behavior had evolved into a new model for galactic civilization. Humans had not only found their place among the stars, they had helped other apex predator species recognize their shared heritage and potential. The prey species were right to be concerned initially, Hyen observed. We are forming a predator alliance, not to hunt them, to explore, to pioneer, to face the challenges that peaceful species cannot handle. As Jiho watched the bustling traffic around Unity Station, he realized that humanity had given the galaxy something it never had before. Not just another intelligent species, but a bridge between different evolutionary paths. Humans understood both the predatory drive to explore and conquer, and the cooperative instinct to build and maintain civilization. The recognition in alien eyes had been the beginning. Understanding between apex predators was the foundation, but cooperation across evolutionary differences was the future. And in that future, humanity would play a unique role as a species that helped the galaxy's apex predators recognize not just each other, but their potential to work together for something greater than individual dominance.